الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Welcome to session number 12 in our Ramadan series, The Path. Again, this is a series in which we comment on the great book by Imam Ibn Qudam al-Maqdisi rahimahullah ta'ala, which is titled مختصر منهاج القاصدين. We finished a fourth of the book and we moved on to the second fourth, which is the second section in the book. And it has to do with etiquettes. And it's actually a very interesting glimpse into how the Muslim scholars really paid great attention to etiquettes, social etiquettes. And we're going to notice actually some unique etiquettes that are, I would say, time-bound, that have to do with their time. Some of them are universal. Some of them speak to their norms, to what is appropriate in their times. So it's good to look at these different etiquettes and be able to tell the difference. So let's start. He says, الربع الثاني من الكتاب, the second section of the book, or this. ربع العادات وفيه أبواب. This has to do with the etiquettes and habits, daily life habits, life practices, and it has chapters under it. باب في آداب الأكل, a chapter with regards to the etiquettes of food, eating. والاجتماع عليه والضيافة ونحو ذلك, and feasts, for example, when people eating together and when people have guests and so on and so forth. وآداب الأكل منها ما هو قبله ومنها ما هو مع الأكل ومنها ما هو بعد الأكل. So the etiquettes, some of them have to do with before eating, like time for preparation, like before the act of eating, and during the act of eating, and after finishing the food. فمن القسم الأول, from the first part, first section, or for the first type, which is before eating, غسل اليدين قبل الأكل كما ورد في الحديث. Washing the hands before eating, just like was mentioned in the hadith. لأنها لا تخلو من درن, because the hands usually engage with different things and they would be exposed to dirt or dirty things. ومن ذلك أن يوضع الطعام على السفرة الموضوعة على الأرض فإنه أقرب إلى فعل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من رفعه على المائدة. And from the etiquettes is to put the food on the floor rather than on a table, because this is closer to the habit of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now again, this is sometimes a matter of preference. There's not necessarily a religious obligation or recommendation here. It's just a general kind of, I would say, preference. And there would be scholars who would argue that there's no merit for eating on the ground over eating on a table, etc. وهو أدنى إلى التواضع, and this brings more humility, humbleness. ومن ذلك أن يجلس الجلسة على السفرة فينصب رجله اليمنى ويعتمد على اليسرى. And from that is to erect one's right foot, right leg, and raise the knee while sitting on the left foot. Again, this has to do with their times. Is there anything specifically there about the sunnah or anything? No, but this was like the etiquettes, the social norms in their times. وينوي بأكله أن يتقوى على طاعة الله تعالى ليكون مطيعا بالأكل. And to have an intention with eating, that he's strengthening his body, he's feeding his body, strengthening his body in order to help himself, support himself, worship or obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا يقصد به التنعم فقط, and let his intention not only be to enjoy the food. وعلامة صحة هذه النية أخذ البلغة دون الشبع. And a good indication that this is the intention is that the person eats what supports them, what strengthens them, but not reaching the point of, feeling full. Again, so Just an important note, don't take this as religious obligations or even religious recommendations. Some of these things are preferences, and some of these are just time bound. They have to do with their time. So it's important not to see this as, oh, I have to do this, or somebody else might be listening to this and say, that's a lot of restrictions. But again, for them, for their time, that was the norm. That was the best thing to do things. And if an outsider, someone, let's say from 200 years from now, looks at our food etiquettes, they would see that's a lot of restrictions. These are a lot of instructions. Why? Because to an outsider, there seems to be a lot. But when this is the norm, we don't realize that we have internalized and normalized so many details that they just feel so natural to us. But they don't seem so to an outsider. So I hope as we are looking at this, that we also keep this in mind, that we are looking at another time, right? It's about 700-800 years ago. He's talking about their etiquettes. And again, a lot of them are preferences. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما ملأ ابن آدم وعاء شرا من بطن حسب ابن آدم أكلات يقمن صلبه فإن كان لا محالة فثلث لطعامه وثلث لشرابه وثلث لنفسه. This is an authentic hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said that son of Adam would not fill a container worse than the stomach. It's enough for son of Adam to have some mouthfuls that would keep him strong, keep him healthy. And if a person, still insists on eating more, then leave a third of your stomach, or fill a third of your stomach with food, another third with drink, and leave a third for your breath, for comfort. ومن ضرورة هذه النية أن لا يمد يده إلى الطعام إلا وهو جائع. And if the person is coming from this intention, basically to eat, to strengthen oneself, and enable oneself to worship Allah and obey Allah and fulfill one's mission in this life, that the person only reaches out to food when the person is hungry, not out of luxury, right? وأن يرفع يده قبل الشبع, and the person stops eating before reaching, the point where they are full. ومن فعل ذلك لم يكد يحتاج إلى طبيب, and whoever does this and lives this lifestyle, they would hardly need a physician or a doctor. There would be no need for medication. ومن ذلك أن يرضى بالموجود من الرزق, and from the etiquettes is that, and from a sign of this intention, that a person would be content with whatever is available to them. ولا يحتقر اليسير منه, and the person does not look down upon the food that's available, even if it's little, if it's not that great. وأن يجتهد في تكثير الأيدي على الطعام ولو من أهله وولده, and the person would be keen to have more people join in the food and benefit from it, eat from it, even if it's not extended to beyond his family. So whatever, even if the only ones available are his family, his kids, he brings them to join. القسم الثاني, the second type of etiquettes which are during eating, the act of eating, وفي الآداب حالة الأكل, وهو أن يبدأ ببسم الله في أوله ويحمد الله تعالى في آخره. The person starts before eating with Bismillah, with the name of Allah, and that at the end the person thanks Allah and praises Him for the food. ومن ذلك أن يأكل باليمنى ويصغر اللقمة ويجود مضغها, and the person eats with the right hand and make their the bites that they take small, and to chew on the food well, like chew it well. وأن لا يمد يده إلى أخرى حتى يبتلع الأولى, and not to reach out to another bite before having swallowed the first one. And these are actually things, these are good practices, and people who know about health, actually, I think they have a statement which they say, drink what you eat and eat what you drink. Meaning, drink what you eat. So you chew on it until it becomes, in your mouth, almost liquid, and then you swallow it. So he's giving that advice, right? And again, to give yourself time to swallow before, and not to be hasty with food. وَلَا يَذُمَّ مَأْكُولًا, and that the person does not speak bad about any type of food. We know this from the Prophet ﷺ, that he would not mention anything bad about a food. If he likes it, he would eat it. If he doesn't like it, he just wouldn't eat it. ومن ذلك أن يأكل مما يليه. Another person eats from what is right in front of them. Let's say there's a platter of food. You don't reach to the middle of it or to the other side. You eat from what's in front of you. إلا أن يكون الطعام متنوعا كالفاكهة. Unless the platter has different types of food, like a platter of fruits, right? So you want an apple and what's in front of you is an orange. So you reach out to the apple, no problem in this case. وَلْيَأْكُلْ بِثَلَاثِ أَصَابِعٍ, and to eat with 3 fingers. Well, again, this is the practice of the Prophet ﷺ, but it's not a religious practice. It doesn't have to, it's called sunnatul ada. That's what the Prophet ﷺ used to eat out of habit, out of their norms. The Prophet ﷺ would eat hold the food with 3 fingers. وَإِذَا وَقَعَتْ لُقْمَةٌ أَخَذَهَا, and if a bite or some food falls, he would pick it up and eat it. ومن ذلك أن لا ينفخ في الطعام الحار, and not to blow on hot food to cool it. We do that sometimes. A spoon, we blow on it in order just to cool it down. That you should not do this. ولا يجمع بين التمر والنوى في طبق واحد, and not to put, like when you eat dates, not to put the stones or the seeds back on the same plate. No, separate them, put them somewhere else. ولا يجمعه في كفه, and not and not to put the stones, not to gather them in your hand, like you're eating dates, then you spit the stones in your hand, and you do that a few times, and you're having stones, the date stones in your hand. بل يضعه من فيه على ظهر كفه ثم يلقيه. But the person, spits the stone, the date stone, or even if they remove it before eating, so it spits the stone from the mouth on the back of your hand, and then you put it where, in the bin or somewhere else. Again, these are just, it seems that these are the etiquettes of their times. This is politeness. This is good etiquettes. وَكَذَا كُلُّ مَا لَهُ عَجَمٌ وَثَفْلٌ, and thus everything that has a stone, or it has seed that needs to be thrown, or it has a skin that needs to be thrown as well, let's say banana or whatever. وَلَا يَشْرَبَ الْمَاءَ فِي أَثْنَاءِ الطَّعَامِ, and not to drink water in the middle of eating. فَإِنَّهُ أَجْوَدُ فِي بَابِ الطِّبِّ, it is, from the medical perspective, it's better. Again, this is disputed, and this is why I said don't take this as a religion. These are just the etiquettes of their time, and maybe this was the suggestion of medicine at their time. And previously, it was believed, even recently, in that people in the field of nutrition or medicine, they would recommend that you don't drink during food. But I don't know, at least that was my observation. But recently, you've been hearing that it's good actually to drink a little bit during the food. ومن آداب الشرب أن يتناول الإناء بيمينه, and from the etiquettes of drinking is that the person should hold the cup in their hands, in the right hand. وينظر فيه قبل الشرب, and to check it, look into it before drinking. And that's obviously, that's to make sure that there is no insects, there's nothing, dirt, nothing dirty, nothing spoils the drink that you are drinking, the water that you're drinking, for example. So again, these are etiquettes. Don't forget, somebody might say, oh, do we have to do this? Or why? This is too much. Again, as we said, these are etiquettes. Just consider this to be like a documentary on how people used to, the etiquettes of eating and food at their time. وَيَمُصَّ مَصًّا لَا عَبًّا, and that the person takes sips from the cup and not gobble up like the whole cup all at once. فقد روي عن علي رضي الله عنه, it was narrated from Ali ibn Abi Talib رضي الله عنه. Again, this is a weak narration to Ali ibn Abi Talib, but again, it's mentioned here, so we'll translate it. مص الماء مصا ولا تعبه عبا فإن الكباد من العب. Okay, so he would say, sip on the water slowly and don't gobble up. And it seems al-kibad here, it seems that some sort of a disease or fatigue that happens to the liver it comes from drinking water with so much haste, like gobbling up water. وَلَا يَشْرَبَ قَائِمًا, and do not drink standing up. And again, this is a strong recommendation from the Prophet ﷺ. There's a dispute whether it's haram to drink standing or whether it's strongly advised against. I take the opinion of the scholars, and I think it's a majority, that it is strongly advised against, but not necessarily haram. وَيَتَنَفَّسَ فِي شُرْبِهِ ثَلَاثًا, and the person drinks on 3 breaths, not all at once. ففي الصحيحين أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يتنفس في الإناء ثلاثة. In the 2 Sahih Bukhari Muslim, that the Prophet ﷺ would take 3 breaths, drink, at 3 breaths. والمعنى يتنفس في شربه في الإناء بأن يبعد الإناء عنه ويتنفس. The meaning is the Prophet ﷺ would take, some drink and then remove the cup, breathe, then take another one. Obviously, don't do it like in a very mechanical way. Some people say, okay, drank, then bring it back. No, it's just he would drink and take a breath, drink another, but not breathe into the cup. القسم الثالث من آداب الأكل ما يستحب بعد الطعام. The 3rd type of etiquette has to do with after food. وهو أن يمسك قبل الشبع, and that's to stop eating before reaching a point of being full. ويلعق أصابعه, and to lick one's own fingers. Again, these are, I would say, culture specific. It depends on which culture you come from. وأن يسلت القصة وَلْيَحْمَدِ اللَّهِ. And يَسْلِتَ الْقَصَّةِ, I believe what it means here is to make sure that you wipe, that you don't throw anything of the food. You don't leave remnants. Obviously, unless you've already reached your fill, or you've had enough, that's enough. وَلْيَحْمَدِ اللَّهِ, and to praise Allah and thank Him for the food. ففي الحديث عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال, in the authentic hadith from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, that he said, it's in Sahih Muslim, إن الله لا يرضى عن العبد أن يأكل الأكلة فيحمده عليها ويشرب الشرب فيحمده عليها. That Allah is pleased with His servant, that he eats food and he thanks Allah for it, and that he drinks and he thanks Allah for it. Allah would be pleased with the servant because of that. وَيَغْسِلَ يَدَيْهِ مِنَ الْغَمَرِ, and to wash the hands after food. Again, these are some of them are really, really beautiful etiquettes and still suitable for our times. فصل فيما يزيد من الآداب بسبب الاجتماع والمشاركة في الأكل. Okay, so this is like a small, I would say, heading on extra etiquettes that have to do with occasions when people gather for food, like invitations, feasts, etc. من ذلك أن لا يبتدئ في الأكل إلا إذا كان معه من يستحق التقدم لكبر سنه أو زيادة فضل إلا أن يكون هو المتبوع. Okay, so among these is that a person should not, like people are gathering around a plate or platter of food, that you do not go first. You let the oldest person in the group start, or you wait for them till they start, or the one who's the more eminent among this group. Unless you are the eldest, the most senior, or the most eminent among the group, and sort of they give you this privilege to start, so you go and start with it. Again, it shows consideration for other people. Beautiful etiquettes. ومنها أن لا يسكتوا على الطعام بل يتكلمون بالمعروف ويتحدثون بحكايات الصالحين في الأطعمة وغيرها. Okay, and from the etiquettes is that people should not be dead, like have dead silence, complete, complete mute. They should not be like this, but they should exchange some words, good words that are suitable for this time of enjoying the food, the feast. And again, this is not necessarily universal. It's different from one culture to the other, because in some cultures, you shouldn't be speaking when you're eating. So these are culture specific. ومن ذلك أن يقصد كل منهم الإثارة لرفيقه ولا يحوج رفيقه إلى أن يقول له كل بل ينبسط ولا يتصنع بالانقباض. So he's saying, and each one in this around the platter should seek to prefer the others over himself, and that a person should not withhold and be too shy and restrict themselves to a point that gets some others to, invite him to eat. Hey, eat, like you're not eating properly, eat, right? SubhanAllah, and again, that's good consideration of other people. ومن ذلك أن لا ينظر إلى أصحابه حالة الأكل لئلا يستحيوا. And also when others are eating along with you, that you do not stare at them as they are eating, because some people might be embarrassed. You don't want to be eyeing people as they are munching on their food and eating. ومن ذلك أن لا يفعل ما يستقدره من غيره فلا ينفض يده في القصعة ولا يقدمه إليها رأسه عند وضع اللقمة في فيه. Okay, so he's saying, and the person should avoid doing things that he would not approve of other people, and he would feel disgusted if other people did the same. For example, some people, as they're eating, again, this has to do usually with people eating with their own hands, that you do not sort of try to, how would you say that? Snap your hand to sort of let the remaining food on your hand fall back on the platter, because people are joining you. Again, that's obvious, right? And the person, as you are eating from a platter, you should not bring your head over the platter as you put, the mouthful right in your mouth. It's just a little bit I would say intruding. It's more of a little bit aggressive. It's uncomfortable that you put your head over the platter and you get right on top of it in order to bring the mouth, the bite to your mouth. وإذا أخرج شيئا من فيه ليرمي به صرف وجهه عن الطعام وأخذه بيساره. And if there is something that is in your mouth and you want to get it out, like a piece of food, the food you don't like, or maybe some bone or something that's not edible, so you want to remove it of your mouth, don't do that in front of the platter. You'd say, turn to the left and take it out with your left hand, and don't do that, like don't let that be visible, okay? ولا يغمس اللقمة الدسمة في الخل ولا الخل في الدسمة فقد يكرهه غيره ولا يغمس بقية اللقمة التي أكل منها في المرقة. Okay, and if you're eating something greasy, you do not, again, he's talking about dips here, dipping. So this has to do with the type of food that they used to eat. So it seems to me, I'm trying to understand this. So he says, if you have, so I'm going to use bread here as the main course with, again, with dips. So if you dip your bread into something greasy, let's say, could be yogurt, could be cheese, could be ghee or butter. One of the most common dips at their time was vinegar. So you don't put it in the grease, you don't dip your bread in the greasy stuff, and then you dip it in the vinegar, because you're mixing two dips now. And some people find that appalling, especially when it comes to greasy and vinegar. Okay, so take this as a rule. The rule is don't mix the dips and don't confuse things. Don't get the stuff mixed on the platter. Don't cross-contaminate, in a sense. That would be the word. Don't cross-contaminate. Okay. ولا يغمس بقية اللقمة التي أكل منها في المرقة. Let's say you have a bread that you're dipping in some sort of sauce. You already dipped it and you took a bite from it, and still part of the bread is in your hand. Don't dip it back again, because now it has your saliva, has your breath, and it might be off-putting to others. I mean, it's really very interesting. I never paid attention when it came to these details previously, but now as I'm doing this reading with you, it actually sounds very interesting to see the differences, and also to, take the universal rules there and probably benefit from them, while, leaving the particulars, the things that are particular to their culture, leaving that, away from our etiquettes, the etiquettes for time. Another heading here, فصل في تقديم الطعام إلى الإخوان. This is a heading on offering the food to your brothers, your brethren. ويستحب تقديم الطعام إلى الإخوان. روي ذلك عن علي رضي الله عنه قال: لأني أجمع إخواني على صاع من الطعام أحب إلي من أن أعتق رقبة. So it's basically about inviting people to your food, to join your food. And he's saying it's recommended to offer the food and to invite people to food, your brothers. And there's a narration from Ali ibn Abi Talib. There's no grading here of it. But basically, the meaning is okay. He says that it's better, like I prefer to gather my brothers and offer them food rather than free a slave, meaning there's a lot of reward in that. وكان خيثم رحمه الله يصنع الخبيث والطعام الطيب فيدعو إبراهيم والأعمش ويقول كلوا فما صنعته إلا لكم. Khaythama must be from a tabi'in because he was inviting Ibrahim, I guess Ibrahim al-Nakha'i and al-A'mash here. He used to make nice, beautiful food, and he would invite Ibrahim al-Nakha'i and al-A'mash, and he would tell them, eat, hey guys, eat. I've made this specifically for you. So it means that they would give importance to something like this. And they would go about intentionally doing it. And it's not like they had food and they just happened to invite someone. No, they made a point to make food and invite people to come and eat from it. Not necessarily invite them at home, but invite them to the food. ويقدم ما حضر من غير تكلف ولا يستأذنهم في التقديم بل يقدم من غير استئذان ومن التكلف أن يقدم جميع ما عنده. And again, and the person like offers food to people in their company, their guests, whatever is available, without overburdening oneself, and not to seek their permission. Hey, like I'm going to offer you some food. Is that okay? No, just bring the food. Just bring it without, making any offers or seeking any permissions. And do not like offer everything you have at home, because that would be a bit too much. Like that would be overwhelming for you. ومن آداب الزائر أن لا يقترح طعاما بعينه وإن خير بين طعامين اختار أيسرهما إلا أن يعلم أن مضيفه يسر باقتراحه ولا يقصر عن تحصيل ذلك أو ولا يقصر عن تحصيل ذلك. And from the etiquettes of the guest, not to ask for a specific food. And if he is given choice between two like options, do you want us to make you this or make you that? Make you, let's say, for example, mixed grill or barbecue chicken or pasta, whatever. I don't recommend, carbs, generally speaking, pasta. So, إلا أن يعلم أن مضيفه يسر باقتراحه, unless you know that your host actually would love to honor you and treat you, and they would be happy if you stayed a preference because they want to treat you. And that it would not be overwhelming or would burden the host. فقد نزل الشافعي رحمه الله على الزعفراني وكان الزعفراني يكتب كل يوم رقعة بما يطبخ من الألوان ويسلمها إلى الجارية فأخذ الشافعي الرقعة وألحق فيها لونا آخر فلما علم الزعفراني اشتد فرحه. Okay, I need to understand this before I translate it. So Shafi'i once became a guest. He was hosted by a man called the Za'farani. And the Za'farani had a servant girl that would go probably and buy him some of the ingredients. And so every day he would actually write these ingredients and send the servant girl to go and get these ingredients and come back. Shafi'i saw that, that note, and he actually added to it one ingredient. And Za'farani felt so happy. Why? Because he wanted to treat Shafi'i. He was happy that Shafi'i was feeling so much at ease that he even suggested something as a guest, right? Another heading, فصل لا تدخل على قوم يأكلون. Another etiquette is that do not enter upon a people who are eating. ولا ينبغي لأحد إذا علم أن قوما يأكلون أن يدخل عليهم، فإن صادفهم من غير قصد فسألوه الأكل نظر، فإن علم أنهم إنما سألوه حياء منه فلا يأكل، وإن علم أنهم يحبون أكله معهم جاز له أن يأكل. Again, these are etiquettes, so disclaimer before you don't necessarily take that like to the letter, saying no one should enter upon a people if he knows that they have gathered for food, obviously unless you're invited. But if you happen to enter upon a people and they happen to be eating at that time, if they invite you to food, look at the situation, sort of analyze the situation. If they are just saying that out of shyness, then just apologize, don't join them for the food. But if you know for sure that they will be genuinely happy for you to join them, then it's okay for you to join them. ومن دخل دار صديقه فلم يجده وكان واثقا به عالما أنه إذا أكل من طعامه سر بذلك جاز له أن يأكل. And whoever enters the house of his friend when the friend is not there, and he knew that if he ate from the food in his friend's house, that his friend would be happy, then it's okay for him to eat. How would this happen? You might go to, and this depends on the house. So some people had their house, they had the guest house, where their friends could come even if they are not at home. The guests come, the servants in the house would welcome their friends into the guest house or the guest room, and they would offer them something there. So and they might offer them even food. So if you know that your friend is happy, generally, and your friend is not at home, so he's happy, generally speaking, happy that you came to the house and you just ate from their food, even though they're not there, it's okay for you to eat. If you know that they are they prefer privacy and they're not happy with you, being there for a meal and eating a meal when they're not there, then you should respect that. Again, this might be, specific to their culture and to their times, but there might be some universal meanings that we can draw from this. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here. Tonight is going to be the 27th night in Ramadan, and I don't think there's anything I don't need to say anything more than what you already know. This is one of the nights where Laylatul Qadr is expected, is actually most expected. So again, don't deny yourself any blessings from Allah, any barakah, and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Open up your heart, pray, read Quran, make dhikr, ask Allah for forgiveness, send sadaqah, do any act of kindness, remember an old friend, someone is in need, and go and help them out. Any act of goodness, do it. And make dua for the Muslims all around the world, specifically that we know that many Muslims are going through a lot. And if we were to name them, there would be a big list. But at least, the Muslims in Al-Quds, in Jerusalem now, especially Sheikh al-Jarrah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve them, protect them, and keep them safe and protect their houses.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
So just make dua for them as you make dua for yourself and your family. And inshallah tonight, Abu Huraira is going to hold an event, and we have guest speakers from different parts of the world. So I encourage you to join and benefit, inshallah ta'ala. And don't forget to support the masjid. May Allah reward you and accept from you. Jazakumullah khairan. See you in tonight's event. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brothers and sisters, this Ramadan, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're going to launch the largest Quran Drive initiative in the history of Canada. As you know, the pandemic and the shutdown has made giving da'wah extremely difficult. So we thought, what better way to give da'wah than giving a copy of the Quran to as many people as possible.
I used to be an atheist, but from interacting with Muslims, I bought a Quran and fell in love with it. Halfway through the book, I knew this was the truth, so I became a Muslim.
Actually, I became Muslim without even reading the Quran. A big reason was because of Islam's pure monotheism. After I took my Shahada, a brother of the masjid actually gave me a copy of the Quran, and as soon as I started reading it, it only strengthened my faith even more.
I was curious about the major religions of the world because I couldn't understand why people believe in God. So I got a copy of Quran. The verses really touched my heart. I had never read a book like this. After doing my research, I became a Muslim.
This Ramadan, multiply your rewards by sponsoring a copy of the Quran or a box. To learn more, please click the link below. Assalamu alaikum.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي